The SpaceX flight crew for NASA sets off for their 5-month stay on the International Space Station. On this flight, there's representation from Japan, Russia, and the U.S. Tom Costello caught up with the crew before takeoff.
For decades, Russian and American astronauts have worked side by side in orbit. Now, amid war and sanctions, Russia is threatening to pull out of the space station within a few years. But today, 2 Americans, a Japanese astronaut and a Russian cosmonaut, will board a SpaceX rocket for a 5-month station assignment. They've been training together for a year. Mission Commander Nicole Mann is a veteran combat pilot set to become the first Native American woman in space. You've got a Russian cosmonaut among your crew members. Is there tension among you and your fellow cosmonaut?
It's just like working with any other true professional, and that they are true professionals.
That Russian crew member is Anna Kakina, Russia's only current female cosmonaut. Do you and your crew members discuss the tension with Russia and America, or do you choose not to discuss certain topics?
We were focusing on our common, unique, single aim, and we had not a time for something else.
And once in orbit, they all gaze at the same home. This is the view of Earth from the International Space Station and a simulator at NASA in Houston. Outside the cupola, the blue richness of Earth, and the blackness, the deep blackness of space. And right there, the Canadarm, which has reached out to grab an incoming cargo vessel. Russian rockets regularly give the station a required altitude boost, and crew members often eat dinner together. But cosmonauts have also flown flags from the breakaway Ukrainian regions, even an old Soviet flag. Still, NASA's chief says both countries communicate and coordinate every day.
This has been going on since 1975, in the middle of the Cold War with the Soviet Union. And that cooperation has continued ever since.
250 miles above the Earth, some topics are better left on the ground.
Still ahead at noon, a homemade crunchy topping to spice up your next salad.